Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychiatrist and pioneer of depth psychology, believed that the soul isn't something to be understood with logic. It speaks through dreams, through symbols, through the quiet discontent that grows when we live disconnected from who we truly are. He said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." And he was right. We live in a world obsessed with appearance. Social media has become a curated museum of personas. We show the polished surface, never the cracks. We value productivity over presence, status over sincerity. The soul? It becomes background noise until something cracks the facade, a divorce, a death, the children leave home, a birthday with a zero. Something shifts, and suddenly you're not sure who you are anymore. That's when the deeper questions rise. Not the kind you can Google, but the kind that demand silence, courage, honesty. This video is an invitation, not to analyze yourself, but to feel yourself. To let your soul speak, not in words but in symbols, and symbols have power. Jung taught that the unconscious communicates through images, archetypes that bypass rationality and speak directly to the depths of who we are. That's why the most meaningful moments in life aren't always logical. They're felt, intuitively known, like a dream you can't explain but still remember years later. Today, I'll guide you through a symbolic test. A simple choice, but one that reveals more than you might expect. You'll be presented with 5 vessels, each one representing a unique way the soul holds and expresses life. They differ in shape, material, feeling, and presence, but none is better than the other. Each carries its own wisdom and its own shadow. You won't be asked to analyze, just to choose. Which one calls to you? Which one feels like home? And that choice may tell you something your rational mind has been avoiding. Not a fixed truth, but a reflection, a mirror, an opening. You may recognize parts of yourself you've buried, or parts you've outgrown. You may feel affirmed, surprised, even confronted. That's good. Because to face the soul is not to find perfection, it's to find wholeness. And wholeness includes the beautiful and the broken, the confident and the afraid, the remembered and the forgotten. So as we begin, I invite you to set aside judgment. This is not a personality test. This is not about right or wrong. This is about listening. Jung once said, "Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens." This is your moment to look inside, to stop asking what the world expects of you, and start asking what your soul has been waiting to tell you. Take a breath, let go of the noise, and let's begin. Before we reveal the 5 vessels, I want to invite you to take part in something simple, but meaningful. This isn't just a video, it's a shared moment, a space where hundreds, maybe thousands of people, just like you, will stop for a few minutes to reflect on the same question. People from different places, with different lives, but united by a single desire, to reconnect with something real inside. So here's your first instinctual choice. If you had to choose between the following 2 paths, which one feels more like you? 1. The path of ancestral experience. You're drawn to wisdom that comes from deep roots. You value tradition, lived experience, stories passed down. You believe that the soul is shaped through time, pain, patience, and that meaning is found by honoring what came before. 2. The path of relational harmony. You find your center through connection with people, nature, beauty. You seek inner balance through emotional resonance, kindness, and emotional truth. You believe that the soul thrives when we're attuned to each other's needs. Take a moment. Don't overthink it. Just notice which one resonates more. Now, go to the comments and share. I chose path 1, ancestral experience, or I chose path 2, relational harmony. Why is this important? Because when you make a symbolic choice publicly, you give your unconscious voice. You bring something hidden into light. And perhaps by reading what others felt, you'll begin to see that you're not alone on this journey. Ready to go deeper? Let's look at the vessels of the soul. Imagine your soul as a vessel, not in the poetic sense, but literally, a container with a shape, a material, a history, a receptacle that holds everything you've lived, loved, lost, and longed for. This is not a new idea. Across ancient traditions, from Greece to China, from the Hebrew Psalms to African tribal rites, the vessel has always symbolized the soul, the body as a cup, the spirit as water, the self as something that contains and is contained. Carl Jung took this symbolism further. He believed that every image, every object we're drawn to, reveals a deeper layer of our unconscious. The symbols we choose are not random. They reflect who we are, not on the surface, but in the depths. He once said, "The soul is a living thing that needs a container, otherwise it spills over into chaos." The vessel, then, is not just a symbol. It's a mirror. Some souls are like clay jars, earthy, grounded, unpretentious. Others like silver goblets, refined, dignified, heavy with meaning. Some are carved wooden bowls, warm, nurturing, resilient, or porcelain cups, delicate, refined, tuned to beauty. And others still like crystal glasses, clear, sharp, transparent to the core. Each vessel reflects a way of being, a way of holding life, but also a way of breaking. Because every strength carries a shadow. The clay can crack, the silver can tarnish, the wood can warp, the porcelain can shatter, the crystal can cut. That's what makes this test meaningful. It's not about identifying your best qualities. It's about seeing the totality of your inner shape, both the beauty and the fragility. This is the soul's paradox. It longs to be filled, yet fears overflow. It craves expression, yet hides behind masks. It seeks form, yet resists limitation. By choosing your vessel, you begin to see the architecture of your inner life. You start to ask, what am I built to carry? What am I afraid to hold? What do I spill? What do I protect too tightly? So in a moment, you'll be shown 5 images. You'll choose one, not based on logic, but on resonance, on feeling, and that image will open a door. But remember, this is not a test with results. It's a path towards self-reflection. There is no correct vessel, no ideal soul, only your truth, your shape, your material, your strength, and your shadow. This is your unconscious speaking through symbol. Let it speak freely. Let it surprise you. Now, take a breath. Open your inner senses and choose the vessel that feels most like you. If you chose the clay jar, your soul is grounded in something timeless, something raw, honest, and human. Clay is earth. It's molded by hand, shaped by pressure, and fired by fire. It's not flashy, it's not perfect, but it's real. It breathes. Those drawn to the clay jar often carry a deep need for authenticity. You don't pretend well, and you're not interested in surface-level living. Your soul wants what is true even when it's uncomfortable, especially then. You value simplicity, but not in the sense of lack. For you, simplicity is richness without excess, beauty without performance, presence without masks. You likely feel most at home in spaces where there's room to be imperfect, to laugh from the gut, to cry without apology, to sit in silence without needing to impress. Your relationships tend to be deep and loyal. You don't have patience for shallow talk or artificial connections. If you're going to invest in someone, it's with your whole self or not at all. There's a kind of sacred groundedness in how you move through life. You may be drawn to nature, to working with your hands, to cultivating something slowly over time. Like pottery, your growth comes from the tension between pressure and presence. You grow by being with life, not by escaping it. But like all vessels, the clay jar carries a shadow. Because when your soul is made of earth, it can become rigid, hardened. You may struggle to adapt when life demands flexibility. When things move too fast or get too abstract, you might resist. Not because you can't understand, but because it feels disconnected from your truth. You might say things like, "That's just not me. I don't play games. I'm not going to pretend." And while that integrity is powerful, it can sometimes close you off from nuance, from change, from allowing yourself to evolve. There may be wounds from the past that made you distrustful of anything polished or theoretical. Perhaps you've been burned by manipulation or by people who said one thing and lived another. So now you cling to what's real, but sometimes that becomes a wall. The other shadow? Bluntness. Because you value truth so deeply, you may say things with a raw honesty that cuts more than it heals. Your directness can be refreshing, but it can also isolate. Not everyone is ready to hear the truth the way you deliver it. And then there's the silent risk of emptiness. Clay jars are meant to hold water. But when they go too long without being filled, when you give too much and receive too little, your soul may start to crack, quietly, invisibly. You may feel like no one really sees your depth because you're so often holding space for others. You may forget that even the strongest vessels need tending, so what can you do? First, honor your essence. Your authenticity is a gift in a world starving for the real, but also, stay soft. Let yourself adapt. Let new truths shape you. Clay only becomes brittle when it refuses water. Practice speaking truth with compassion and allow others to hold you too. You don't have to be the container all the time. Jung would say that wholeness is not found in becoming something else, but in integrating what is missing. For the clay soul, that means learning to balance groundedness with grace, solidity with flow. You are not here to perform. You are here to embody. You are the earth, shaped by life's hands holding stories, scars, and sacred space. Let yourself be filled. If you chose the silver goblet, your soul carries memory, history, meaning woven through generations. Silver is a noble metal. It tarnishes with time, but never loses its essence. It reflects light, but only when polished. It has weight, presence, and a certain silent authority. It's not loud, but it's unmistakably there. Choosing the silver goblet means that your soul is drawn to depth through tradition. You likely feel connected to a larger story, be it cultural, spiritual, ancestral, or familial. You're not just living your life, you're carrying a lineage. There's often a quiet dignity in people like you, a sense of responsibility even if it's never been named out loud. You might feel a duty to uphold certain values, to protect what's sacred, to be someone others can rely on, especially in times of uncertainty. Your presence can feel like a pillar, solid, dependable, steeped in inner wisdom. People may look to you as the one who remembers, who holds the stories, who keeps the rituals alive. You may have an old soul, or feel older than your years, not because you're tired, but because your soul has roots. You likely cherish symbols, a ring passed down from a grandmother, a handwritten letter, a melody from childhood. These are not just objects. They are vessels of meaning, reminders that the soul isn't built in isolation. It's inherited, shaped by what came before. But with all this strength comes a shadow, because when your soul is made of silver, you may carry weight that isn't yours. The expectations of others, the voice of generations saying, this is how things must be. You may find yourself living according to values you never fully questioned, out of loyalty, out of love, or out of fear. This can create an inner tension, the desire to honor the past and the need to live your own truth. At times you may feel trapped in a role, noble, respected, but limiting. You may find it hard to. There's also the risk of perfectionism. Because silver reflects, you may feel the pressure to maintain a certain image, polished, wise, composed. Admitting vulnerability might feel like a betrayal of the role you've been asked to play. And perhaps most quietly, there's a grief that comes with being the one who remembers, a loneliness in carrying stories no one asks about, a longing to be held with the same reverence you offer to others. So what can you do? First, recognize the gift you bring. You are the keeper of meaning, the one who holds the sacred thread. That is powerful. But you're also allowed to release, to rewrite, to decide which parts of the legacy you want to carry forward and which you can lovingly lay down. Polish your silver, but don't be afraid to let it tarnish sometimes. There is beauty in wear. There is wisdom in admitting you don't have all the answers. Let others see not just your strength, but your humanity. Jung would say that we all carry archetypes within us, and one of them is the Senex, the elder, the wise one. But the Senex must be balanced with the poor, the child, the free spirit. Otherwise the soul becomes too heavy, too rigid, too tired. If you chose the silver goblet, Your path is to honor tradition without becoming imprisoned by it, to carry the past, but also to dream forward, to let yourself laugh, experiment, stumble, to be human, not just responsible. You are the soul that remembers. Now allow yourself to become the soul that creates. If you were drawn to the carved wooden bowl, your soul speaks the language of care, of presence, of quiet warmth that doesn't shout, but surrounds. Wood is alive. It was once a tree, rooted in the earth, shaped by the elements and carved by human hands. It holds the memory of growth rings, of wind and time. Unlike metal or crystal, wood is warm to the touch. It breathes. It softens with age. If this is your vessel, your soul is likely nurturing, relational, emotionally attuned. You know how to hold others, sometimes even before they ask. You notice details others miss, a tone of voice, a shift in energy, a need hiding behind silence. You are the soul that feeds, not necessarily through food, but through listening, through remembering small things, through the way you show up when someone is lost or hurting. You may be the one everyone turns to when life falls apart, not because you have all the answers, but because your presence makes others feel safe. There's a quiet generosity in you, a need to give, to support, to keep things together. You might feel most alive when you're serving a purpose, when your energy becomes nourishment for something greater than yourself, family, community, a cause, a craft. But your giving is not loud. Like the wooden bowl, it's humble, grounded, made for use, not display. And yet, this deep gift comes with a shadow, because when your soul is shaped to hold others, you can forget to hold yourself. The wooden bowl can become overfilled, taken for granted, expected to always be there. You may find yourself exhausted but unable to stop. You may feel guilty when you need space or selfish when you say no. Your identity may have become entangled with usefulness, as if your worth depends on what you give. You may also struggle with over-responsibility, carrying emotions that aren't yours, trying to fix what cannot be fixed. When someone is in pain, you may feel it in your own body. You may absorb too much. And then there's the fear, deep and often unspoken, of not being needed. Because if your role is to nurture, then who are you when no one asks? When the children grow up? When the relationship shifts? When the giving stops? This can trigger an identity crisis. Thou soul-emptying silence that says, if I'm not the one who cares for others, what's left of me? But here's the truth. You are not just the bowl. You are also the nourishment. Your gift is not only in holding others, it's in holding space for yourself, for your dreams, your longings, your tiredness, your joy. You're allowed to say, I need, not just I'll help. You're allowed to rest, to receive, to be held. Jung taught that the psyche seeks balance. And for the nurturing soul, that means learning to set boundaries without guilt. It means recognizing that your soul matters, even when you're not being useful. The bowl that never gets refilled will eventually crack. So what can you do? Return to your own center. Take time to carve space for yourself, not out of selfishness, but out of love. Learn to ask, what fills me? What feeds me? Let others care for you. Let yourself be vulnerable, not just dependable. Your warmth is sacred, but it needs tending. You are the soul that gives life, sustains connection, weaves safety into every space you enter. But you are also worthy when you are empty, quiet, still. You are the bowl. You are also the hands that carve it. If you chose the elegant porcelain cup, your soul is tuned to beauty, to harmony, to what is subtle, refined, and often invisible to others. Porcelain is delicate, yes, but not weak. It's been shaped by intense fire, glazed with care, and designed not just for use but for experience. Its value lies in the details, the curve of its edge, the texture of its surface, the lightness in the hand. If this is your vessel, you likely have an aesthetic sensitivity, a way of perceiving the world that notices nuance, elegance, and emotional tone. Beauty, for you, is not luxury. It's meaning. It's how the soul breathes. You're drawn to what is intentional, a carefully chosen word, a quiet gesture, the way sunlight touches a floor at just the right angle. You might find peace in rituals, morning coffee in your favorite mug, a handwritten letter, music that speaks to what words cannot. You probably carry yourself with a certain grace, even if unintentional. There's an inner refinement that shapes your thoughts, your environment, your relationships. You may be introverted or sensitive to chaos, easily overwhelmed by loudness or disorder. Not out of fragility, but because you're tuned to a different frequency. You crave internal and external coherence. You want your outer world to reflect your inner values and vice versa. When things are aligned, your soul rests. When they're not, you feel disoriented, even anxious. There is artistry in how you live. Even if you're not an artist, your life is a form of creative expression. You may long to surround yourself with things that carry soul, not expensive things, but things with meaning, story, or intentional design. And yet, like every vessel, the porcelain cup has its shadow. Because when your soul is drawn to beauty, you may struggle with the messiness of life. Reality doesn't always cooperate with your longing for elegance. People are unpredictable, emotions are chaotic, life breaks things, and sometimes so do you. You may find yourself retreating into ideals, into solitude, into mental or aesthetic worlds where things feel safer, cleaner, more manageable. But this retreat, if unconscious, can become disconnection, a form of emotional distancing, a way of hiding your pain behind perfection, your needs behind self-sufficiency, your chaos behind control. You may also wrestle with elitism, not in a snobbish sense, but in the quiet belief that only certain environments or people are right for you. This can lead to loneliness, to missed connections, to a subtle sense of superiority that protects you from vulnerability. And perhaps, beneath it all, a deep fear of breaking. Because porcelain, once shattered, is difficult to repair. You may have learned to keep a certain image, to stay composed, even when something inside is aching. You may resist asking for help, fearing that your cracks will be seen as failure. But here's the truth. Your soul is not made to be pristine. It's made to be whole. Jung said that the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. For the porcelain soul, this means embracing not only what is beautiful and serene, but also what is broken, messy, undone. So what can you do? Let beauty remain your compass, but not your cage. Practice being where things are imperfect. Let someone see you without your composure. Let the room be a little untidy. Let the conversation go off script. Allow yourself to be cracked, and loved through the crack. Because often it's in the imperfections that connection is born, in the rawness that intimacy finds room to breathe. You are the soul that brings grace to the world. That reminds others of elegance, of stillness, of emotional truth expressed in quiet form. But don't forget, you too deserve the full range of life. Not just the curated, but the real, the wild, the tender. You are not here to be flawless. You are here to feel. And you are no less sacred when you shake. If you chose the transparent crystal glass, your soul longs for truth, not comfort, not conformity, but truth, pure, luminous, and undistorted. Crystal is rare, refined. It reveals everything it contains. There are no secrets inside a crystal glass. What you see is what is. It refracts light. It sings when touched, and it breaks with precision. To be drawn to crystal means that your soul is intellectually honest, spiritually awake, and deeply committed to seeing things as they are. You are likely someone who questions appearances, who looks past the surface, who hungers for what is real, even if it's uncomfortable. There's a clarity in you that others may find disarming. You have an ability to cut through noise, pretense, and illusion. You're not easily fooled by people, by institutions, or even by your own ego. You may be drawn to psychology, philosophy, mysticism, not for escapism, but because you seek integration. You want to understand how things work, beneath the layers. You believe that insight can liberate, that seeing clearly is healing. In relationships, you value transparency. You don't play games, you want depth, honesty, mutual respect. Emotional truth matters more to you than social niceties. You'd rather sit in silence than engage in small talk. And yet, there is a loneliness that can come with this clarity. Because when your soul is shaped like crystal, it can become untouchable. Your standards may be so high, internally and externally, that nothing quite satisfies. You may struggle to find people who meet you where you are, without pretense or performance. You may feel like you're living in a world full of smoke, trying to breathe clean air. The shadow of crystal is isolation, because truth, without tenderness, can become cold. Clarity without connection can become arrogance, and wisdom without humility can become a prison. You may also be hard on yourself, demanding, introspective to a fault, always trying to figure things out. You may pride yourself on independence, but secretly long for someone who sees you, not just your brilliance but your fragility. And that's another shadow, the fear of vulnerability. You've learned how to be clear, but not always how to be soft. You may avoid showing need because you associate it with weakness. You may keep people at a distance, afraid they'll contaminate your clarity or misunderstand your depth. But crystal, for all its beauty, is not invincible. It can fracture under pressure, shatter under impact. So what can you do? Jung reminds us that the goal is not perfection, but wholeness. And for the crystal soul, wholeness means learning to bring warmth into your clarity, to let truth become compassionate, to let insight serve connection, not replace it. Allow others to see you before you're polished. Let someone into the parts of you that are still in process. Not everything needs to be articulated. Some things are meant to be felt. Practice holding truth gently. Speak it with kindness, not sharpness. Let yourself be held, not just understood. Because while your gift is seeing clearly, your deeper gift is helping others see themselves, with love, not judgment. With precision, but also with mercy. You are the soul that searches, questions, refines. But you are also the soul that longs to be embraced without explanation. Let clarity guide you, but let love reach you. You don't need to be perfect to be held. You just need to be present. And even crystal, when broken, can be reformed into light. You've now seen the 5 vessels: the clay jar, grounded in authenticity; the silver goblet, rich with legacy; the wooden bowl, shaped by care; the porcelain cup, refined through beauty; the crystal glass, clear with truth. Each one speaks a different language of the soul. Each one holds both light and shadow, and none is better than the other. This isn't a hierarchy. It's a map of your essence, your wounds, your gifts, your path. Maybe you saw yourself in more than one vessel. That's natural. We are layered beings. A soul is never just one thing. It is a mosaic, shaped by time, love, grief, and experience. What matters is not the label, but the reflection. What did your choice stir in you? What part of yourself did it bring into focus? Carl Jung taught that the soul doesn't evolve through force, it evolves through awareness, through facing what we've ignored, through remembering who we were before the world told us who to be. So as you leave this space, don't rush to a conclusion. Sit with what emerged. Let the image of your vessel stay with you this week. Ask yourself, what do I hold that no one sees? Where am I cracked and what still leaks out? What do I need to be filled again? And finally, what does my soul need me to remember? If this touched something in you, I invite you to share your vessel in the comments. You never know who might read your words and feel less alone. And if this journey spoke to you, subscribe. There's more to explore, and your soul deserves it. Let the question remain alive. What fills you?